You know, we are living through a time of identity crisis in the United States. We're having to ask ourselves in our generation, how much do we mean this Declaration of Independence stuff? How much are we going to commit in our generation to the principles on which we purport to stand? All are created equal. Do we or do we not mean that? God gave inalienable rights to everyone, to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Do we or do we not mean that? We are to be a nation of unity in diversity, all cultures, all religions, all ethnicities, unified by common principles. Do we or do we not mean that? I think, you know, our second president, John Adams, said that he hoped that on every July 4th, that this country and this country's citizens would use the holiday to revisit our first principles. Because whether you're a nation or an individual, sometimes you have to ask yourself, what do I stand for? What are my values? What are my principles? And I think in this generation we need a deeper level of emotional and psychological rebonding with our own principles. Otherwise they're in marble, inscribed on walls somewhere, or they're written on parchment somewhere. But if we're not holding them in our hearts, they lose their moral force. Principles are dead if they're not alive.
The president has continued to justify his tweets and his ongoing attacks in the name of fighting back against what he considers anti-Semitism that he has said he hears from these women. Listen to him here, and then I'll let you respond.
Respectfully, Mr. President, they have First Amendment rights to say what they want about our country. That's what the Constitution guarantees. Do you see not agreeing with you as the same thing as hating the country, sir?
Yeah, they have First Amendment rights, but that doesn't mean I'm happy about them saying. And when they say bad things about us, we can certainly feel. And again, we have First Amendment rights also. We can certainly feel what and say what we want. I don't know if it's good or bad politically. I don't care. But when people are speaking so badly, when they call our country garbage, think of that. That's worse than deplorable. When they call our country garbage, I don't care about politics. I don't care if it's good or bad about politics. Many people say it's good. I don't know if it's good or bad. I can tell you this. You can't talk that way about our country. Not when I'm the president. So I think they've said horrible things. They're anti-Semitic. And you look at the kind of statements they've made about Israel, it's a disgrace. But I hear Omar today put in, or yesterday put in, a sanctions bill against Israel and other things beyond sanctions. So when I hear that, you just can't talk about our country that way. And when people are angry at them, I fully understand it. What they've said about Israel are just terrible. And you look at the kind of statements they've made about Israel, it's a disgrace to say that about Israel. It's horrible what they've said about Israel. They say things about Israel that's so bad, so anti-Semitic and anti-Israel.
I'm a Jew. I don't need, so I have definite feelings about that. First of all, there's no they there. It is one congresswoman, from what I know, Congresswoman Omar. She said things about Israel I don't agree with, and there are some serious issues there. But she is still a sitting congresswoman of the United States. He doesn't, you know, she was elected by the people of her district. She gets to have the opinions that she has, and even though I might very much disagree with her about specific policies, he doesn't get to pull that out. So I'm a Jew. No, sorry, President Trump, you don't get to pull that out as your defense.
Let me ask you about a prayer you began leading as far back as 2016. I know you're starting to get attention with this. During that prayer, you have white Americans apologize to African Americans for slavery, lynchings, white supremacy, denial of voting rights, denial of civil rights, among other things. Would you lead white Americans in a similar prayer, an apology toward African Americans as a presidential candidate?
No, that was in a completely different context of a spiritual support group, spiritual act of racial reconciliation. I think as a presidential candidate, I'm interested in a program of reparations. I'm interested in a program of amends. You know, it is a a spiritual theme, whether it has to do with Catholics going to confession or whether it has to do with Jews on the day of Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, that was within a spiritual context. The idea of the purification of our hearts through an apology or an atonement is a very important spiritual principle, and it does apply to groups of people as well as it applies to individuals.
I know you lived in Detroit. That's where the next Democratic debates are here on CNN. You'll be debating on that first night,
Yes.
July 30th. Having had experience in living in Detroit, what do you think the people there want to hear?
Oh, Detroit is a wonderful city. I raised my daughter there. My daughter says, "Mommy, I had a happy childhood there," which, as you know, is the most important thing a mother can hear. But I feel in terms of what they want to hear in Detroit, my experience, whether it's in Detroit or Iowa or New Hampshire or South Carolina or California or New York or Nevada or any place else, Americans, I'm having an American conversation. I don't care whether you're in this group or that group, this religion or that religion, this color or that color, this sex, this sexuality, or this geographical region. I'm interested in a deeper conversation about where America is, where the United States is now in terms of where we have been, what we owe to our great-grandchildren, our unborn great-grandchildren. And so to me, what I have found in Detroit, as in every other place in this country, is people are ready for a deeper conversation about this country that goes way beyond just their own individual concerns.
Marianne Williamson, great to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you.